welcome to Movies, Films, and Flicks. I am Mark Hoffmeyer, and joining me is someone whose logic collapses on the subatomic level. It's John Levingood.
Into ghosts and shadows, Mark. That's what they do.
There are some humdinger conversations in this film, and I adore this movie. And you know what I like most about this, John? Because I recently did a rewatch of it, and this was always a lesser Carpenter for me. And I'm not saying it's lesser. I was just so busy with The Thing and the Kurt Russell pictures and Escape from New York and They Live. I hadn't given this much attention. And so in the research for this about how he wanted to back away from the studio system and make his own film, and he really did on this one. And what I like about this film, it's a singular vision, John. You can tell Carpenter had creative of this movie. And that's where you get science. That's where you get religion. That's where you get Alice Cooper stabbing people at mic stands. It's wonderful horror mustaches. It's just a singular vision from Carpenter, and I think it's highly effective throughout. I mean, it does a good job building dread. I love the theme. There's some cheeky humor that takes me out occasionally, but I don't know. I like it. This has been a very fun movie for me to re-explore, or to actually explore for the first time, because I'd never really looked that much into it. So how was your rewatches of this?
It's funny that you said that you always consider this one of the lesser Carpenter films, because so I saw this in high school, and then I might have seen it again like in college. We're talking almost 20 years ago, or more than 20 years ago at this point. But I'm only certain that I watched it once before I was even 30 years old.
Oh, wow.
And then just a year or two ago, I bought it and I reviewed it for the website. And when I reviewed it for MFF, I'm watching this movie and I'm thinking, so I remember this being a hokey movie. I'm not kidding. And now this is teen John, or 20-year-old John's opinion, right? But I remember this being kind of hokey. And the thing is that I can see exactly why I remembered thinking that. But all the things that I see when I watch it now for this podcast preparation, and when I reviewed it a couple years ago, I remember just being knocked on my butt impressed. It was like I was seeing it for the first time. Mm-hmm. Now that I had so much more appreciation for film, and I pay attention to I care about good characters now. But 20-year-old John, or high schooler John, judged a horror movie almost exclusively on the quality of the death scenes. And I would say that the death scenes specifically are by far, if you were to come up with 20 categories, the weakest category of this film. This film isn't about the death scenes. It's about the development. And cooler things happen to the victims of the death scenes after their death scenes, if you will. And that's when the real neat stuff happens. But when you're a kid, you're focusing on the excitement again of the death scene. And that just didn't work for me, I guess, when I was younger. And I thought it was some hokey thing, and I never came back to it for, I don't know, 10 or almost 20 years. And then likewise, the kind of contraction of evil, and demons, Evil Dead, Romero zombie movies, it's kind of like a bite. In this, there's a stream of water, and you can, if you choose to, you can reduce this to a very crass criticism. But again, this just goes back to that is not the vehicle of this movie. That's just a device to move the plot along. And so it's so interesting that all the other things around it, though, the set design, I swear, when I saw that underground temple, I thought of Indiana Jones. I thought of set design of Indiana Jones, level caliber.
And the budget forced him to look for those. He found abandoned buildings. The cast and crew had to sign a waiver to shoot because the thing was falling apart. He shot at USC for a day where he got his education. I think the lack of a budget, John, was pretty cool because it forced him to do great location scouting around California. And they found some humdinger of locations. I love the crosses, the candles, who's lighting those. But yeah, you're right. I love the world he created, and the anti-god whose son has to raise him, the cheeky anti-god, very cheeky, laughing and yeah. But you're right. No, I like the locations. I like the feel of it. It felt like, that abandoned church they were at isolated them, and they even answered questions. Why not run around these zombies? It doesn't matter because the anti-god's coming, and we got to do something about this. To raise... Right,
there was a different urgency than just surviving these zombie things, right.
Or, I'm sorry, the son of the anti-god is coming out to bring the anti-god out into the real world. And it's just, this movie is thrilling to me because, like you said, the deaths, if there's 20 things you love, I would put that as 20th. Also, a lot of the characters in this film, I like their portrayals, but I don't think Carpenter, there's so many characters in this that I don't even know their names. They get killed immediately. But the movie's not about those characters either. I think, for me, this is a movie about mood, about dread, about science and science and religion intersecting. It's about an idea. That's what this movie is for me. And so I love that aspect of it. I mean, when do we ever get this, John? The church teams up with scientists to help them prove that there's this green cylinder of ooze, the secret of ooze it's like midi-chlorians floating through the world, controlling things. It's just a very interesting dynamic, hearing this kind of interesting discussions about carbon dating being 7 million years old, and Jesus was an alien from an alien race, but no one believed him, so they wanted to build actual proof. And how did they keep this a secret? It's all a lie. There's some heady stuff in here, but then there's also giant mustaches, and Alice Cooper stabbing people with mic stands, and Dennis Dun talking some pretty interesting, dropping some interesting bits in this movie. Hey, you watch any good movies lately? It's a weird one, but it has so much personality. That's what I like about it, I guess. It's a very singular vision. It has a personality, and it's different than most stock possession, exorcism, Satan's arising films. I dig it. It's getting better with age, and
with every viewing, it's every viewing you appreciate it a little more, because it's. I guess his creative freedom really shines in this, because it's not a simple plot. I remember this being about the son of Satan, and I feel like a lot of people who write about it as if this is the son of Satan, and yet even though they say they kind of say very clearly that it's not, but at the same time they talk so much stuff that sounds similar to that we think of that. But I mean, like you said, it's this anti-god destroyed his own son and put his son in this chamber, but now his son is the vector to get him back. But there needs to be influence to the outside world, and that apparently is why we're getting these kind of Evil Dead influenced zombie-like cultist amalgams, and then it's going to build up strength, and then it uses one of the people as a conduit. Who knows how or why he picked her.
Bumped into. Oops.
Right, and then there's the dream gateway, if you will, or I'm sorry, the mirror portal. And so there are all these facets, and I feel like most horror movies are going to be very straightforward. We need to stop this ritual from happening because they're going to summon the devil. That's your premise. This gate is going to open at the blood moon, and then this will be able to happen. There's your movie. And this is taking dimensions of things, I don't know, very loosely similar to something like your Evil Dead or your zombie movie. And then like your preventing the rise of Satan kind of movie. And anytime you ever have a scientist and a priest in a movie, they're normally both throwaway characters, where one is just there to give you 2 lines of exposition to forward the plot of the other. They're usually very basic combinations. And yeah, like there's a lot going on here. And then with all the homeless people becoming these kind of hive mind zealot sort of cultists, sort of influenced from the beyond. I only have one line of the movie that brings the greatest sense to that. And that is when Victor Wong, Professor Burak, refers to his initial influence, most likely of weak-minded creatures. And I think it was being implied that homeless and or disturbed people would be those weak-minded creatures, in addition to vermin that we see affected. I feel like that's where that was going.
Yeah, I read somewhere where they said it was the Lost, but I think your interpretation, even if it's quite heartless, I think that's what they were saying. So either the Lost, or they're considered, maybe most people consider these people on the streets to be less than. Does that make sense? So maybe they believed it. It's still an interesting dynamic about this film. And they were talking about the supernova that let loose a bunch of stuff, and it wasn't hitting to Earth until now, and that was really helping awake the tube the son of the anti-god. There's a lot in this movie, John.
I felt like that was, again, it's so loose of a connection that I'm making. It's not like I think this was the influence, but I'm reminded of, what was it, the asteroid mist from Night of the Living Dead?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Like they're bringing this cosmic event into it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's a lot here. And, you know, you mentioned how the characters, you don't really get too into any of them, but they didn't feel like weak characters to me. Mm-hmm. I felt like the entire ensemble of scientists in a way was kind of like this big amalgam character, because you're sitting back appreciating that they have a radiologist, a microbiologist, a chemist, a theologist specializing in ancient languages. You know, you have the different kinds of physicists, something that always drive me nuts, even in today's movies, even in movies that I really like Mimic with the entomologist. Well, in movies, they usually make these scientists like they know all things science. They don't realize that physicists don't necessarily know jack about biology. They took a couple core biology classes like anyone else. And on top of that, they make the physicist in most movies seem like they know all things physics. Mm-hmm. But that's not the way it is. Your astrophysicists, your applied physicists, your theoretical physicists, these people don't overlap very much, in the same way that you wouldn't have your child psychologist, your child psychiatrist do open heart surgery on you. Mm-hmm. The skill sets are 100% disparate, other than fundamental knowledge sets. And in this, they let these scientists be specialists, and so gave it a very grounded notion. Everyone is doing their little piece of the research to put this all together, instead of handing this to Doctor Who, and Doctor Who just sciences every. And I'm not bashing Doctor Who, by the way, people. I hope people aren't screaming at me right now.
That's most movies, John. You're right. That would be two characters. That would be one character battling the devil. That would be one really smart character and four dumb characters helping him, asking stupid questions. Yes. This one's a team of, like you said, applied, theoretical, languages. It's smart. It's a very smart maneuver. And like you said, I'm not saying these are weak characters. I just think the focus is less on the characters, for me at least, and builds towards the mood. But you make a great point. Yeah, I like the different aspects coming in, and I like the applied, the applied physicist, I think it's applied, wondering, like, I can't apply this to anything. He's like, well, he likes theoretical. Like, it's an interesting discussion in a horror movie. It's neat. And Carpenter said this in the commentary. He had become fascinated with quantum uncertainty after reading several books on the subject, but he ultimately felt it was impossible to explain. And he's like, it was all mumbo jumbo anyway. It was just a horror movie, he says. And then the writer said that the script touches on just enough of it to catch and hold the viewer's interest. And it's true.
Yeah, I think so.
It's not over-explained, but if you listen to it, you get the plot. You get it. Does that make sense? Like, it never died. I never asked one. I have a question, John. Did this movie make you ask any? I think asking questions in movies is good, but I also think asking dumb questions. I've never asked any dumb questions about this. So wait, why is this that? Or why is this that? I just go, oh, okay, I get it. If that, there was no.
Instead of saying, well, why would they do that? You're saying, I wonder why they did that.
Yeah, exactly.
I wonder about that supernova. I wonder why it was why did they pick 7 million years? Like, I wonder these things. Of course, 7 is a very important number in association with biblical aspects connecting to, I'm not theologically accurate. God or the beast is for 7. I don't remember, but but 7 itself is an important number, and I wonder if that happened to be a part of that choice. But it's 7 million years, and at that point, who knows? But yeah,
it's a great Prince song too.
I wonder why.